Hello everyone, welcome back to week 9 of our React.js fundamental series. In the previous parts, we have looked at JSX, component based architecture and how React renders components efficiently. Now, in part 4, we take an important next step, that is diving deeper into functional components and how data flows between them using props or properties. These are foundational concepts in React, and understanding them will empower you to build interactive, modular and dynamic UIs confidently. In this session, we will begin with what we want to accomplish by the end of the lesson. From there, we will explore what exactly functional components are, why they are the modern standard in React. We will learn how to create them, how to export and import them across files, and how to export and import them across files, and how to nest components inside other components. Then, we will shift our focus from one of the most important ideas in React, that is props, which enable us to pass data from one component to another. You will see how props make components reusable, customizable and dynamic. So, what are we aiming to learn today? Our first goal is to understand how to build and use functional components, which are the building blocks of any modern React application. Next, we want to be able to pass and receive data using props, a concept that allows components to communicate with one another and behaves differently depending on the input they receive. If you grasp these two core ideas, you will be well on your way to building complete data-driven React applications. Let us begin with the concept of functional components. A functional component in React is simply a JavaScript function that returns JSX, which, as we have learned, is React's special syntax for describing UI elements. This function tells React what a piece of the interface should look like and how it should behave. One of the great things about functional components is how clean and straightforward they are. Compared to class components, they involve much less boilerplate, making the code easier to write and read. Originally, the functional components were used only for stateless rendering, meaning they couldn't manage internal state. But with the introduction of hooks, that limitation is gone. Now, they can also be stateful, managing local state with useState, side effects with useEffect and much more. This makes functional components not just simpler but also powerful and versatile, and the preferred approach for writing components in modern React applications. Now, why is component organization so important? As your application grows, maintaining a clean and logical folder structure becomes essential for collaboration, debugging and scaling your code base. At a minimum, your project might have a SRC folder, inside which there is a components folder. Inside that, each major UI piece like header, footer, main component.jsx gets its own file. For larger applications, it's a good idea to group components based on feature or section. For instance, layout related components go into a layout subfolder, and home page specific components like banner or feature list might go into a home folder. This approach not only reflects the component hierarchy of your app in the file structure, but also makes it easier for teams to work together. Each developer can focus on a specific part of the UI without stepping on someone else's code. Let's now move on to the second major topic of this session, that is props. The term props is short for properties, and they represent data that's passed from a parent component to a child component. Think of props as a way of customizing and configuring components. For example, you might have a generic greeting card component that displays a name and a message. Instead of hard coding those values, you can pass them as a props from the parent, so the same component can show different content depending on the input. Props are read-only. That means once a child receives props, it can't modify them. The child can only use them as is. This enforces a one-way data flow in React, which makes apps more predictable and easier to debug. Now, how do we actually use props inside a component? When a component receives props, they arrive as a single object, usually referred to as props. Inside your JSX, you can access and display props using curly braces. For instance, you could write props.name to insert the name that was passed in. This might feel similar to templating engines in other frameworks as it is, but with React, everything stays inside JavaScript. That gives you a lot of flexibility. You can run expressions, call functions, or even conditionally display parts of the UI, all based on props. One key thing to remember is that props are immutable. You should never try to change them inside the child component. If you need to update the data, that update should come from the parent component and be passed down again through props. Now, let's take a quick look at what functional components look like in practice.
Hello everyone. In this short demonstration, we will learn how to create and use functional components in React, organize them using folders, and pass props from a parent component to a child component, all using default exports. In the previous demonstration, we have seen how to set up a React project using Vite. So we created my app project. So I have simply opened this my app project in my VS Code. Now we have some predefined files that we have already seen. So in this app.jsx, we will be writing our app component. So we don't require this thing. So I will be deleting this. We don't require this count. So I will delete this count. And we will be writing our app component inside this. So I will delete this. Now, I will break down my app component into smaller subcomponents. So, I have break down my app component into three subcomponents, that is header, footer and greeting card. So, I will be nesting those components over here. So, first I will create those components. So, for creating these components, I will first create a components folder wherein I will store this header.jsx file, footer.jsx file and greetingcard.jsx. So I will first create a components folder inside my src. Now inside this components folder, I will create header.jsx file, footer.jsx file and greetingcard.jsx file. Now I will first create a component in header.jsx. Creating a functional component is just like creating a plain JavaScript function. So here I will write function header. Now here I will return a JSX code. So here suppose I will write welcome to my app. Now we will use default export. So we will write export default header. This is how we have created our header component. Now we will create a footer component. So now we will use default export so that we can import it later. Now we will create our greeting card component. As it will have multiple elements, so I will use parenthesis, and I can either use React fragment or a div element for this, but we will use React fragment. So here in H2, I will write hello. Now we will be using props. So here we receive props as an object and we will access its value using dot notation. So here I will write props and we will access its value using a dot notation. So we use curly braces to embed the JavaScript expressions. So here I will write props.name. Here I will write props.message. Now we will use export default. Note that props are read only. You can use them, but you should not try to modify them inside the parent element. Now we will input all these components in our app.jsx file. Now we will make all the imports. So we will import header from dot slash components slash header. Similarly, we will import our footer component from dot slash component slash footer. Now we will import our greeting card component. We have imported greeting card component from our components folder. Now we will nest these components inside my app component. So here I will write my header component in the form of a custom tags. So first we will write our header component. Then we will write our greeting card component. Now we will pass the name and message, that is, we will pass the data in the form of attributes. So I will write name is equals to say yes, and message is equals to have a great day, say learning React. Note one thing, that Babel looks for a closing tags. So always you have to write the tags in this format. All of them should be closing tags. Now we will write our footer component. And now we have exported this app component. So we have imported these components using default import, and we have used them just like custom HTML tags. So here we have created these components, we have nested these components, and now these components are reusable. So if we want, we can create one more greeting card. So we will first see how this thing is coming, then we will create one more greeting card element. So I will run. So here make sure that you are in command prompt. So here I will write npm run dev. I will hit enter. So it will give me this link. So here you can see this is the app component that we have created just now. So here it says welcome to my app. Hello Yash and have a great day learning React. And this is my footer part, okay? So now these components are reusable. So we can create one more greeting card over here. So now we will see how to do it. So here after this I will create one more greeting card. So here as suggested, we can use say name is equals to Rahul, and I can write message as keep exploring React. Now I will have to close this tag. Okay, so my application is still running. So here you can see we have reused our greeting card component, and here it is getting displayed over here. Okay, so today we created functional components using plain JavaScript function. We use default export and import to reuse them. We have built a component hierarchy. We have passed props to make component dynamic. We have access props using curly braces in JSX.
To wrap up this part of the series, we have now covered how to write functional components, how to structure and reuse them across your project, and how to pass dynamic data into them using props. Together, these concepts form the backbone of most React applications. Once you are comfortable with this pattern, that is building small components and composing them together, each configured via props, you are ready to build dynamic, interactive user interfaces that are clean, modular and scalable. In the next part, we will bring everything together we have done so far and understand the flow of a simple React application using components and props. In the next part, we will explore React state, that is the other half of what makes components dynamic, and how it works in combination with props to manage interactivity and data flow. Until then, take some time to practice writing your own functional components and passing data using props. Thank you.